Peace, family. I had the post earlier concerning Inwood, the area that's like right outside of Greens Point in Houston, and just to point out what's known as indigent areas. Um, Indigent, the definition of indigent is groups of people who are in low income areas and they are destined to never leave. They're destined to live and die in those areas. Inwood is an area that I heavily go to a lot because of my job. I have to go out and either bring resources, help the member or the patient, as I usually say, find income, find a job, find whatever they can for them, even just find a doctor. But the main thing I do notice is that there's no jobs in that area. And most of the people I'm looking for are black men, not women, mostly black men. Because that area is like 75% PSOG, 75% black, basically. You don't see too many anybody else is black. Um, but the only job it's like when you drive in it's like Inwood is basically like almost one street. It's like you drive down. I always forget the name of the street, but you know you're there. Um, the nearest job is a Church's Chicken that's like right next to a convenience store. So that's something that we talked about a lot. Is that we live in areas where we don't have jobs for us. You got to realize before I go into this list, I'm going to do a compare and contrast so you can really get and really understand what I'm talking about. But when the civil rights bill was passed, the whole point of that was a deal was not just to the Voting Rights Act. It wasn't just that. It was that the government was going to basically provide for black people. Basically, what they took from us, we were going to get back. And people from the civil rights era, such as Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, A. Philip Randolph, Andrew Young, all the coons basically told black people, this is what I helped you get. Don't worry about trying to fight anymore. Don't take it to that level. We are able to on a civil level, get what we need. Peace, Kareem. And that never happened for black people. What happened was white flight. Because you gotta realize in those areas, most of the people in those areas now that, let's say, I'm just giving an example, let's say Houston, Texas. I'm gonna name, let's say, South Park, and I'm gonna give you the annual income of South Park, 3rd Ward, 5th Ward, 4th Ward, Southwest, so that you have an understanding of what I'm talking about. You gotta realize, let's say, for example, you take 3rd Ward, Greater 3rd Ward, and Great Inner and Outer 3rd Ward, from, let's say, what used to be 3rd Ward, which is Alameda, Sophomore, and then you go into Dowling, South McGregor, OST. All that is still considered to be 3rd Ward before you go into the 610 area and you go into South Park. That area, all that was actually occupied mostly by the Irish, the Italians, and blacks and Jews. But it was mostly whites. Now, when white flight came, that money was given to all of the whites, Jews, the Italians, and the Irish. So they was able to go to and build places such as Bel Air, Katy, rebuild, basically make Katy, basically upgrade Katy to where it was pretty much predominantly white, in places like West University. So they was able to move out. That's funny. People don't know that white flight, and I've researched this myself. The white flight areas of Houston is like Bel Air, Texas, West University, and most of Katy. So when the whites moved out of these areas, blacks had to stay in. They had no other choice because they didn't have any jobs. They didn't get any money. What was told that to black people that they were going to get, they never got. It's like Dr. King made a deal, and we got certain stipulations from that bill, but in reality, we didn't get what we were supposed to get. Because the main thing, if you remember, before he died, he kept pushing for, he made a speech about reparations, and then he made one lecture about it and then stopped. So it was no longer, that's why I study people. And so he did that one lecture, Then he went from doing that to having a plan of getting black people and poor whites to come together to fight for economics, which he, if you really be honest with yourself, he reneged on it being about black reparations to just now as being about blacks and whites coming together. So he went right back to the whole integrationist mindset. That's why when people try to give me the argument that Dr. King changed, you can't change your mindset if you're still part of the boule. If you're still boule, you have not changed your mindset. He knew where his loyalty was, and his loyalty was still to white people, contrary to what you want to believe about the man. But no, he still was their key Negro to pacify black people. But anyway, I'm just gonna read to you what has happened to black people since integration, and you have a really good idea. And it's gonna be a compare and contrast. Compare and contrast is very important to see. Rahobat Naim. And I'm go from the first page. I'm gonna compare and contrast black and white. So I'm gonna look at, so you look at annual income. This is annual income, 2016 annual income. This is for, I'm gonna go again, compare and contrast black neighborhood to white neighborhood. So you get a good idea what I'm dealing with. And it's 2-family home, by the way. Greater Greens Point. People know about Greater Greens Point. How much do people know? How much do people make in that? $27,334 in a 2-family income. That's black. All right. Compare and contrast to a white neighborhood. Let's see. Spring Branch West, which is actually not white, is actually multicultural and really mostly Mexican. That's actually $49,761. Okay. So let's go down. You go down to Acres Homes. Everyone knows about Acres Homes. Actually, Acres Homes was the first all-black city of Houston. A lot of people don't know that either. They make $32,053 a year. That's Acres Homes, mostly black. Compare and contrast to Memorial. Memorial makes $102,000. 102 to be exact. $102,600 a year. That's a white neighborhood. Okay, let's keep on going. We got Gulfton, and Gulfton is mostly is mostly Latino. You connect that to University Place. University Place is $121,932 a year. Guess who lives in University Place? You guess it, white people. All right. Now, we're going to Westwood. Westwood is a predominantly black area. 70% black. You know why? Because I live in the area. Guess how much we all make? $22,448 a year between two people. Now, I'm a single man, but on an average, my annual income is actually more than like basically 90% of the black men that live in my area. That's reality. Okay, let me keep going. Next page. I'm still comparing and contrasting. Stay with me. Braeswood. Now, Braeswood is actually a Jewish area. But what they try to make people think is that Braeswood is a black area because it connects to Braeswood and Fondren or Braeswood and Gessner, Braeswood, Bissonnette. But it's not. Braeswood is actually a Jewish area. See, they consolidate the blacks in that area from Gessner and Braeswood all the way to the Beltway. But guess how much Braeswood count to make? About $82,000 a year between two people. But these are Jews. You really think they make that? No. Peace, Alistair. I'm going to go down, still comparing and contrast. Wow. I just had this area, and I'm going to... Oh, here we go. Sunnyside. Everybody knows about Sunnyside. Everyone lives in Houston knows about Sunnyside. Sunnyside, between two people, two-family income is $24,462 a year. This is very important, actually. People don't know how important this really is. Sunnyside is $24,462 a year. Now, I go to Sunnyside a lot because a lot of my patients are out there. This is very important to know. Most of that area is really was historically black. Really became historically black in the 1970s, actually, when most of that area was counted. The count of it was mostly the older generation. That, well, now they're older now, but at that time they were like maybe 25, 30, 35, 40 years old, and now they're like in their 70s and whatnot. And so, because of the drug era, and this is historical fact, when the 70s came in, going into the 80s, that next generation under them was wiped out, even though they still had kids though. So the crime, because Sunnyside is actually considered to be the worst neighborhood in Houston, and basically that area is basically imploding. They're known as also they're known as the indigent area because those, even the young, those that are out there selling drugs or gang whatever, a lot of them are, the government considers them to be indigent, means that they're never going to leave. Even if they're 15, 20, 25 years old, they're never leaving. So their annual income again will pretty much still reflect, will fluctuate up and down to about $24,000 a year between two people. So you got to realize, if you take one person out of that, I'm reading that Jewish people love to do things under covert. A lot of them be working in the black movements to keep us from returning to leaders. Yeah, you're right, of course. I mean, but part of that problem is because the precedent is set by black people who basically get bought out by the Jews. Still going on to this day. I'm gonna go in the Fifth Ward and I'm gonna call the name of an individual who a lot of black people in Houston really want to put all this. And I found the truth out about her, and she's really full of shit. Let's just keep it real. My thing is about keeping it real. Okay, I'm gonna go into. I did a black neighborhood, and I'm gonna go into a white neighborhood that we all know about. Let's see here. It's very easy to see. You can tell by, let's say, Midtown. Now, what's funny about Midtown? Midtown is not even. Midtown was once Third Ward. That area that's Midtown now was once Third Ward years ago. When I was going to Ryan Middle School, it was Third Ward. Now it's considered to be a white neighborhood because it was heavily gentrified, which is what whites are doing now to parts of U of H, South Park, and they're going to extend all the way, because they're now extending into Dead End, was at one point was just known as the further part of South Park going into Airport, and now gentrification is happening in that area. So whites are moving into Dead End. Ain't that funny? We done sat up there and claimed Dead End, yeah, Dead End, the line, DEA, and the cracker just comes in and buys your shit up, as always. So that's funny how an area known as that was once part of Third Ward was bought by white people and now became a white area, and they dominate the area, and they're extending and spreading out. So I'm just going to go to a couple of more just to give you a really good idea of the situation. Let me see. Black area. Another black area, so that you can really have a good idea. Give me a minute. Oh, Cashmere Gardens. Cashmere Gardens is a part of Fifth Ward. Guess how much Cashmere Gardens makes a year between two people? Right, they bully all the blacks out over there. Yeah, exactly. They've been doing it for years. Cashmere Gardens in Fifth Ward makes $23,269 a year between two people in a family. Two people in a home by themselves. Two black people. Two. Okay? Cashmere Gardens is Fifth Ward. Wow. And compare and contrast, going down to, let's say, one I just had. Wow. Oh yeah. Lake Houston is $96,000 a year. White. And let me go to the last one. I'm just gonna point out Greater Fifth Ward in Houston, the Bloody Nickel, is considered to be Collinsworth, Lyons, that area, and Jensen. Okay, I study this shit because I go in these areas just about almost every other day or week. So I'm very familiar with the people, and I'm learning to be, because again, these are indigent areas. Indigent black people who call themselves conscious, which to me, I think we should leave that alone, because it's crazy when you don't Just side note, when you don't change the mentality and you adopt a new name, you destroy the name. Get what I'm saying? When you when you create a new name for yourself and you don't change your mindset or your mentality, you destroy or you taint the name that you create for yourself. So it doesn't really make much sense to even change your name or get a new organizational name when you still do the same thing in the first place. What's the point in doing that? So as far as I'm concerned, I'm just a black man. You know what I'm saying? I'm an African. That's why I say, what's up, African? You understand? I'm a black man at the end of the day. I'm going to do whatever I can to help black people, period. But just to get to the point, the reality is that we're labeled in these areas as indigents by the government. You know what I'm saying? It's a sad situation, and it's crazy because this is not who we are. It's just the government has laid the situation out for us. But the person I was going to name, I'm glad I went to Fifth Ward, was Sheila Jackson Lee. Sheila Jackson Lee is full of shit. And everyone in Houston knows exactly who Sheila Jackson Lee is. Y'all know who she is. She's in Greater Fifth Ward. She's on Lions. She has an office on Lions and does nothing for the community at all. Black woman, does nothing. She's a Boule member and she's a Lynx member. And everyone who knows what Lynx is, that's the female Boule. Okay? Just ask yourself. And this is just examples of what goes on in Houston. I'm sure it's the same thing in any other, even Atlanta, of course, New York City, Chicago, Detroit, Dallas, you know what I'm saying? New Orleans, whatever. But when you have people who you count on, this is another part of the spell that we have to think about, because that's why I say the spell is layered. We trust people too much that we shouldn't trust. Hotep Afi. We trust these Negroes that have been strategically placed in certain areas to keep us down. Sheila Jackson Lee is full of shit. And when people don't understand that, I know that for a damn fact. How you gonna sit your ass in Fifth Ward and do nothing for the people? How is it that you're supplanted in that area and have been supplanted in that area for years? Every time I turn around, you open your mouth and you play the part. But when it's time to do something for the people in that area, you just basically, criticize them. That's a heavily disenfranchised. Fifth Ward is a heavily disenfranchised area. Even though most of the people that they count on the population are the older crowd, because when you go in the area of, let's say, Lions, most of the people that's there are elders. You understand? The young are usually running the streets, so they're not really counted too much. But the reality is that the point of what I'm making is saying, even with Barbara Jordan's ass, Barbara Jordan was full of shit. Just think about, always remember this. Always remember the blacks that they put, whenever whites put certain blacks in certain positions, there's a reason why they do that. These coons are the ones that were the most apologetic and cooperative to white people. You know what I'm saying? She hadn't done anything since I was in high school, 18. Exactly. I remember she was actually when I was in Lamar, and I was just like, we were taught to love her, and I was like, my thing is, whenever white people tell me to love somebody when I was a kid, I was like, fuck out of here, man. There's a reason why you want me to love this motherfucker. And that's my whole point. See, and this extends to the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons, and there's many more than that. The Mickey Lelands and shit in Houston. That motherfucker was full of shit too. When you look that up, they was doing side deals with crackers for years. So my point is that these indigent areas are done purposely by a lot, not just the whites, but the blacks in those areas that are in city council and they're on the Senate and all this other bullshit that don't mean shit. You know what I'm saying? You just a nigga in the house. They're in these certain areas purposely to make sure that these people in these areas, that our people stay disenfranchised. Now, people, when I made that post about Inwood, making less than $20,000, I think $16,000 a year. That was not to say, okay, Ali, what are you gonna do about it? People gotta stop doing that. Okay, first of all, you have to look at the situation for what it is. Look at it for what it is. Make a connection to the people. You can't come into an area and say, we're gonna change your area. No, you're not gonna change shit because they don't know you, nigga. At the end of the day, your people have to know you. At the end of the day, you can't just come into an area, even if it was, like a crime field. Let's say Fifth Ward, for example. You can't come in the Fifth Ward and try to change stuff. All you can do is make a connection to the people to get them to trust you. You know what I'm saying? Black people don't trust black people. Why? We were taught to hate each other. That's common sense that we know now. I don't have to go through all of that. You already know. So you have to get them to trust you. And how do you get someone to trust you? You provide for them. You provide services for them. The people in that area, I may work for the state. My job is I have a state job. So I have to, that's my obligation, but I do more for them than I do for the poor trash crackers that they send me over there too as well, out there off of I-10 East and shit. Trailer park motherfuckers, which they blow them motherfuckers up. But anyway, that's the situation. The solution is, if you haven't made a connection to your community, it don't mean shit. You can come there and set up another vegan spot, shea butter spot, and if you're not providing anything, you can provide a job all day, but they don't trust you. So why would they go and work for you? If I don't trust you, that means I don't trust you to provide for me either. You have to get the people to trust what you say. That's the point. If I don't trust you, that's like me allowing you to babysit my child, but I don't trust you. See, we do things with each other by default because we're forced to be around each other. That's the reality. See, this is one thing I want to say. When people study Black Wall Street, we study Black Wall Street because of, the glory that it was like the black city, all black, black ran, black banks, black schools, black churches, black this, black. But what's funny is there's a lot of interviews when you ask those that were survivors of Black Wall Street and these other black cities, why did you feel the need to do this? Their answer was, well, we couldn't be around white people. So they didn't have a black liberation thought process in their minds. They felt like, well, shit, we can't be around our master, so we might as well just be around. We just build what we gotta build. And so that type of mentality leads into integration, where you basically give up what you had. You had everything you had industries. Even if people don't like sports was an industry that was making money for all the Negro leagues and everything, that was turned into white people. All those players went to white people. Just think about that. So all this stuff is connected to each other. People might think this is trivial, but this is all connected. None of this is separated. Everything I'm talking about is very separated to the same situation that when we integrated, we left ourselves to be permanent underclasses. So we started at the end of slavery, we started at the bottom. So when we were making it, and I learned this from Claude Anderson, shout out to Claude Anderson, that's the great elder, Bob Anderson, as I want to say sometimes. But we were trying to catch up. It's like a race you're running. So economically, we were trying. We do whatever we could to try. We planned obstacles, Jim Crow obstacles, black code obstacles, but we were still doing it. And blacks, of course, whites were jealous of that shit. They want to shut that shit down. And then you get the Negroes that come in, the Dr. Kings and the Abernathys and the A. Philip Randolphs of the light, and they make deals on the side with these Jews to basically destroy black people, to basically because you gotta realize we never really integrated. We just got the right to eat with white people. They still wish your ass would just die, even though you eating in their restaurant. You can give them money and they like, I wish your nigga ass would die. Ain't that funny? The fact that we go into these white neighborhoods, give them our money, and we know they hate our guts. It's people that They live in like black neighborhoods. They live in like Third Ward or whatever, and they can't wait to go to Westheimer, Uptown District, to be around white people. They can look at you like you're a piece of crap to go back home. That's an integrated mindset. You feel you've done something because you get to eat and dine with white folks, with your slave master. And see, that's the mindset that keeps these indigent areas where they are. Because what happens is with us, we get this elitist mindset that once I get that job, I can just leave these niggas. And I can go and do something for myself. I don't these niggas are lazy. You understand? They don't want nothing for themselves. That's just what it is. That's how a lot of us that call ourselves conscious think. And see, when people say that, most of the people who say that shit have no idea what the hell they talking about. They just run their mouth. That's why I just listen to what people have to say. And I'm like, first of all, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't live in that area. So you don't know the history of that area. A lot of us don't know the history of, thank you for sharing it, LaToya. A lot of us don't know the history of Sunnyside, of Third Ward. You realize most of those areas were mostly white. Even let's say Fourth Ward, which Fourth Ward was like mostly, it was black, Jewish, Italian, again, and Irish. And then white flight came and they left them. They left the blacks there and they disenfranchised the area. Was a OG, I know so many blacks that move out. They ain't shit. No, they ain't shit. I mean, for real, like, what's the point? Like, so basically you get your money to get to basically, or you get your job, you know, you go to school to get your job to basically get in the house. We get the in the house job, the corporate job. You know what I'm saying? I went from a house nigga to a field nigga. That's what I went from a field nigga to a house nigga. That's really all you did. You didn't get nothing. You didn't leave to get the money to come back. You wasn't a spook. You was just a Negro. You just went from being a nigga to the Negro. That's all it was. You the new Negro with the white mat with the white glove on. That's you. So, but that's the reality is that what we have to do is we have to take off the labels and the ideology and the people that they have labeled indigent. We have to see them as us because that still is you. That shows the fact that you don't have any control over your own area. You cannot call yourself awoke, but then you drive through Third Ward or you drive through Dead End in South Park and Fifth Ward and be like, look at those niggas. I ain't talking about white people. I'm talking about you as black people. The only way for you to really change the area of that situation or change the area is you have to make a connection to the people. You can set up any business you want. But if the only people coming to that business are people who are conscious, you haven't really done much of anything. You just made money. So you haven't changed the situation. You're not really part of the solution. You're actually a part of the problem because you're sitting there and you're not really putting in any work. And a lot of people do that. They think that they really made some real changes, but they really haven't. You know, and that's the sad part. Like we can, you know, I was talking to Neith about this, Neith Knight on, you know, about this on the phone. It was like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like we can change we can really end white supremacy if we really wanted to. We'd have to make the connection to the people. You know what I'm saying? You're not coming in there, you know, Kareem, salam alaikum, blah, blah, blah. You're just coming to make a connection. That's all you need to do. All this, it's crazy. That's why all this, the Kemet talk and the ancient Egypt lectures to me are really corny at this point. You know, it don't mean nothing if you're not trying to how is that going to change the indigent areas of your neighborhood? At some point, there has to be a group of people within what we call a Black Liberation Nation that goes in the areas of those people, not those people, I said that wrong, I apologize for that, but goes in the areas of our people and talk to them and just develop a friendship because we have to redevelop a trust. We haven't trusted each other since slavery. Truthfully, on a real general level, we have not trusted each other since slavery. We haven't. We pretend that we do, but we haven't. And it shows because if you really had trust, we would have less black organizations. Think about it. Why should you have to have 1 million black organizations if you are all together? Think about it. White people have white nationalist groups, but they're not that many. But when they need to come together, do what they need to do to us, they do it. There's no argument. There's no Let's have a debate about it. I don't like your master teacher, so I'm not going. All that shit is so goddamn trivial. I don't give a shit no more. You understand? Let's just do what we need to do to change the situation in those neighborhoods. I gave a solution. I'm not the only one. My whole thing is just to reconnect to our people. You understand? You can make a business all day, you can start jobs, but then if the people don't come in, because you're telling them what they need to do, people don't need to be told what they need to do at the end of the day, because what are you going to do? It's like a gang member. We always say this. How you going to tell a gang member to stop selling drugs and stop killing people when you haven't given them the solution or given them an alternate life? You want to come in there and change people like the Jehovah's Witness. You're not going to change nothing. Understand that? What you need to do is make a reconnection to your people. That's what I'm about. That's why I deal with whoever I can deal with. You know what I'm saying? I take certain things, but there's certain things I know I have principles on, such as the disrespect of my father or whatever. I have quarrels with my father all the time, but at the end of the day, you're not going to say it. Let me read the Julian Powell. One program implemented in my area was called the Vision to Action Day, where you have boots to the ground urban initiative surveys on what would you like to see in your community. How can we help? We'll see more. Yeah, I think that's, you have to get enough. The thing is, the area that a lot of times I talk about, like, let's say I'll take like Inwood, that's going to be very difficult to do. The only way to do something like that is to basically go to a city council meeting that certain blacks go to, and you can't crash the city council meeting because they'll call the cops on you and move you out. You got to talk to people within that area. The best way to do that is to try to like basically go to the city council meeting and talk to the people that are already there, and just make your presence felt and just listen. A lot of times you don't have to open your mouth, just listen. Go to maybe one or two when you first go. Just, you be a new face and just speak. If you just speak to them, that's all you need to do. Or just be quiet and listen. So you have a good idea of the neighborhood. We got to get the Jehovah's Witness and Mormon mindset out of our minds that we're gonna save black people. No, you're not. You ain't gonna save nothing, because you niggas, a lot of y'all still look at black. You look at, again, consciousness for a lot of people is like a black elitist thing. Well, those people over there, they're just lazy. Even though you may not say it out your mouth, you do believe that. You do feel that way about your own. So what we need to do as well is change our direction of what we do. You understand? We got to change the direction of what we do and how we see ourselves in order for us to change indigent areas like that. The names, the areas that I talk about, because I can only name the areas that I live in, that I see every single day. You understand? So that's what I had to talk about today. So I'm reading Naeem shirt too. I even heard some black people living in the ghetto say, I need to get away from these niggas before I become them. Yeah, of course. It's like the slave looking at the other slave. The other slave, like, I don't want to be that much of a slave. You all y'all in the same position. See, people who say things like that don't realize you're all in the same position together. How can you get away from that person when you're all being affected by the same racial system? That's stupid. Consciousness is like fashion for most. Yeah, you put it on and you take it off. It looks good, like putting on an wearing dreads, wearing this, having a big beard, saying woman is God. Woman is God. I got all her, all women love me now. I said woman is God. That's really what niggas be doing now. That's all that shit is. But anyway, yeah. I had to talk about this. This is very important because this affects us like head on. We see it, but we pretend we don't. It's like looking at a train wreck, and you see it, but it's like, and it's in your area. You see it every day. It's like you make that same curve and you keep on moving. The LISC program, quality of life program. Yeah. We gotta make a connection first before we just start making programs. That's the point. We gotta go step one first. Step one is make a connection. Step one, make the connection to your people. Just talk to them. See, the thing is that we're scared. Black people really are scared of black people are scared of other black people. Let's keep it real. When we get conscious, a lot of us look at it like it was a way out. Just like a lot of black people who get jobs, they see that that was their way out of the hood. So they never go back. That's why most black people, when they get that good job, they leave black people alone. They get that, for a black man, they either get the white wife or the Mexican wife or the Asian wife. Black women do the same exact thing. So when you look at people who call themselves conscious, that's why you see conscious people, they formulate in certain areas away from other black people. And we never think to ourselves and say how the other blacks look at us. We just, well, I'm not them because they don't know that Kemet was da 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 da. Well, I'm Morris and I have my fez on and I'm better. That's really what you're really doing. See, the thing with people like Khalid Muhammad and Steve Coakley and Malcolm and Marcus is that they were the greatest organizers that ever walked the earth for African people. They were the greatest organizers. I studied every black leader. They were the greatest organizers. They didn't differentiate between black people. It just helped. Now people like Steve Coakley, he exposed the house Negroes because that and that's what needs to be done. But he lended his hand to everybody. He didn't push the other black, we're conscious and they're not, so I'm not going to deal with them. And that mentality is killing us as black people. That I see I'm Ali, so them over there, even when we do cleanups, I come out and do cleanups, and a lot of people just look and man, we're cleaning up their mess. And I hear people say that, you're cleaning up their mess? The fuck you talking about? If this is the case, why you come out here? That's how you feel? It's sad, man. That elitist mindset. I'm conscious. You sound like a Du Bois ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man, wake up. That ain't gonna work no more. That's why I don't deal with everybody. I differentiate and I watch and I listen. See, a person who really cares about black people when they just organize black people and the people within it show themselves who's serious and who's not. And that's how you do it. That's all you can do. You can't, do whatever you can to try to separate. And if you don't believe as I believe, then I'm not going to work with you. I don't care about that shit no more, dude. We got a problem. We got several problems that we don't deal with. And I just pointed out tonight, one, that was an economic problem in the Houston area on compare and contrast of black neighborhoods and compared to white neighborhoods. Because the next step is, before I close out, is how did the white neighborhoods get to be the most earning? You got to understand, when people don't know the history, I want y'all to look this up after I shut this down. Redlining. Most people that really study history, they know what redlining is. Redlining was a period of time where you got to realize after the end of slavery, you remember all these banks and industries, they kept the slave money. So that's still blood money. So they kept that blood money and they made further corporations. But then those further corporations continued to make money. Of course, Rockefeller and Rothschild, they, of course, were the ones funding it. But they created the upper GI bills and the government funding for the suburbs. The first suburbs, what you would look up was also called Levittown. And Levittown was the first, suburbs. This is very important to know. I want y'all to pay attention to this. Levittowns were like when you go into let's say parts of Katy, Texas, those were considered to be the first form of the Levittowns. And Levittowns were funded truthfully by slave money to give white people that came from the war and just white people period, but specifically those that came from World War II, free housing. And then what happened was when it slipped into the 50s and 60s, you had the FHA loans, Fair Housing Act. Remember, all this FHA, that's why I think about it. If this money was for everybody and it wasn't slave money, because why would they give you slave money? Why would they give a black person slave money to start their business? They're going to give it to the people who was benefiting from it. And that's what the FHA loans was. That created white flight. and then they were able to get the jobs. That's why if you notice, when you go in white neighborhoods, most of the white kids still work in there. They work in those areas. But compare and contrast to black people, most of our jobs are outside of our neighborhoods. We it's like we live in an area that we don't own, and we don't even work or even own the businesses in. But white people, they live, they own, and they work in the same area. And that was purposely done from, again, that was handed down slave money, period. But people don't know that. They think it's just lazy Negroes. No, that's not what happened. But again, I just wanted people to really understand that we have to make a reconnection to our people. That's the first step. You can't just keep looking at the ghetto as just what it's going to be, because then you're adopting the same white supremacist mindset that white people do to us. Exactly, OG. That shit is ridiculous. That's why a lot of times now I'm just quiet, man. I listen. And within that, that's how I know who's serious about helping black people and who really not. Because a lot of us just talk. And then it's like, okay, did you talk to him over there? Because, and we go out to cleanups a lot as HUT, and we make a connection. People talk to us because they have never seen nothing like that before, because they weren't taught to do the same things. They weren't taught to take care of an area. You understand? This disenfranchisement and poor education, it does something to your mindset and does something to your actions. You can compare and contrast to that too, as a compare and contrast to whites who get the best education and they get the best ideas of things. Then you're gonna do more for yourself, because you see yourself better. That's why they have the study about black boys at certain ages. I know this for a fact. There's more higher suicide rates for young black boys, because they're being heavily still miseducated, and they have an idea of what's being done to them. They're purposely being miseducated, and when we don't really talk or think about that, but we want to go into ancient Kemet, 3,000 years ago. But you got something that happened 100 years ago and you don't know nothing about that. That's a problem. That's something strange. You mean to tell me that you know about Mentuhotep and Namir and Kahmos and Ahmos, but you don't know nothing about what happened 100 years ago in your own neighborhood or in your own country? You don't really know history. You just see you made African history into an ideology, a doctrine, a religion. So you don't really care about black people. You just did that to, as I said before, intellectually masturbate. So it's not really about helping black people. It's just about getting a certain amount of information for yourself to impress other people. Because to have to impress is to live a life of being very disingenuous and full of shit. That's why I don't like to impress nobody. I just be myself, and whatever happens, and move on from it. But again, I don't want to take up no more of your all's time. I did this for a reason, so that we can have a good idea of what's going on in specific areas. Share it, share, Bill Maduti Hotep Maduti, and just have a discussion, like a real discussion, not just some bullshit discussion, like real discussion on how we're going to solve problems. At least you can say, when you start making connections, that you say you've actually done your job to make a connection to your own people, as opposed to putting them down and say, oh, that's the black devil group over there, or that's the lazy Negroes over there. You a house nigga for saying that shit. Just call it for what it is. You a house nigga, and accept that you a house nigga, or change the mentality and do better. All right. So peace, hotel, black power to everybody.